My dear students, this is Lakshminarayana from Department of Economics, Aditya Vinan University. I hope you are all safe at your homes. Due to this pandemic, it is inevitable the online or offline video lectures about the agricultural production economics and farming. Here all know this. Uh, so far, we discussed in the videos importance of agriculture economics, nature and scope of agriculture economics. At the same time, role of agriculture in economic development and traditional agriculture and its modernization. So, interdependence between agriculture and industry and uh, um, what is called some empirical evidence related to the interdependence of agriculture and industry. So far, we are already discussed these issues. Now, I would like to explain models of interaction between agriculture and industry. So, models regarding the models of interaction between agriculture and industry. So, agriculture is a major sector in any country, no doubt. Apart from agriculture, there are some other sectors also there. So, industry and service sector. Developing these two sectors, only agriculture sector prevail in any economy. Now, any economy is consist of three sectors: prime agriculture, industry, and service sector. So, otherwise, you can say this classification in another way: primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. Here, all know what are the components included in primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. So, I don't repeat all these things. Uh, Time is very important. So, here primary sector or agriculture and allied activities are there. But how the relation regarding the uh, raw material and labor supply, there are so many models related to agriculture and industry sectors. The economists like Luis Rodero, Rene Pai, and Basarab, this type of economists explain about the interaction between the agriculture and industry sectors. So I would like to give some slides to you. So in this slides, models of interaction between agriculture and industry are mainly before Lewis model, the Meller, Basarabs at the same time were already discussed about the Switch model also. These economists are earlier, but these economists are confined their theories all for only agriculture. But Lewis explained his model with interaction of industry also. So that's why Lewis model is important in this concept. So Lewis model of economic development, and then Pi and Rani model and Todara model. These three models are important for our uh, subject purpose. The why? Because the question is models of interaction between agriculture and industry. So first of all, the Lewis model is important for the interaction of agriculture and industry. So Lewis model of economic development, Lewis published his model. The entire book entitled is Economic Development with the Unlimited Supply of Labor. So in the year 1954, he published a thesis. So I repeat again, his model name is Economic Development with Unlimited Supplies of Labor. This is very important, and in NET and SET other competitive examinations. So always asking the Lewis wrote or Lewis thesis name is Economic Development with Unlimited Supply of Labor. The Otherwise, unlimited supply of labor concept is related to Lewis. He wrote this thesis in 1954. Otherwise, he published his thesis in 1954. So, various economists have emphasized the role of agriculture in the overall economic development of a country through, though almost all of them agree with regard to the factor, product, and market contributions of agriculture towards the overall development of the economy. Some economists focused their attention on certain specific aspects of this contribution. Narkse and Lewis are two such economists. They have tried to explain how surplus labor can be used in one way or the other to promote to the overall development of the economy. Regarding if you want to know about the surplus labor, the Narkse is first person and Lewis also important person. So, but specifically in a systematic manner arranged the theory of surplus labor is Lewis own. So, do you all know about the surplus? Who is surplus labor? Those who are working in farm activity or any activity, but their marginal productivity is zero. So, they are treated as surplus labor. It is nothing but disguised unemployed. Where there is a disguised unemployed, they are all treated as surplus labor. So, the present concept is to this model, Lewis model, is devoted to a critical examination of the model of economic development put forth by W. L. Lewis. In his model, Lewis divides the economy into two sectors. I repeat again, in his Lewis model, Lewis divides the economy into two sectors, namely, one is capitalist sector and another one is subsistence sector. So, he is divided into two sectors only. Earlier, I said any economy can be divided into three sectors: agriculture, industry, and service sector. No, according to Lewis, he divided economy into only two sectors. What are they? Capitalist sector and subsistence sector. So, the capitalist sector is that part of the economy which uses reproducible capital and pays capitalist for the use thereof. So, what is the role of capitalist sector? Capitalist sector is one of the part in the economy. Another part is agriculture. That is subsistence sector. So, in the capitalist sector, which uses reproducible capital. So, this sector is making reproducible capital and pays capitalist for the use thereof. The capitalist sector includes, besides the manufacturing, industries, the plantations, and mines, where labor is high. In this sector, the most of the work is done by the machinery, but labor is hiring. So, this type of activity is doing in capitalist sector. The capitalist sector can be private or public in character. And the other sector in the economy is the subsistence sector. So, what is subsistence sector? Subsistence sector is that part of the economy which does not use reproducible capital. So, in the subsistence sector, they are not making capital. That's why they are not use of reproducible capital. So, it mainly includes agriculture. In the subsistence sector, main category is agriculture, which is predominantly labor intensive, whereas capitalist sector is predominantly on machinery, but in subsistence sector predominantly on labor intensive, uses poor techniques of cultivation and has a low productivity. Output per head in this sector lower than the output per head in the capitalist sector. So, this is the qualities of subsistence sector. So, the subsistence sector is that part of the economy which does not use reproducible capital. It mainly includes agriculture, which is predominantly labor intensive, uses poor techniques of cultivation, and has a low productivity. Output per head in this sector is lower than the output per head in the capitalist sector. These are the features of capitalist sector and subsistence sector according to Lewis. So Lewis assumed some assumptions for explaining this model. So what are the assumptions of the model? There exists surplus labor in the subsistence sector. Here subsistence sector is nothing but agriculture sector according to Lewis. But he named for the agriculture sector is subsistence sector. So in the subsistence sector, he assumed there is a surplus labor. Surplus labor I already explained, disguised unemployment is there. Labor with zero marginal productivity as well as that whose marginal productivity is positive but less than the institutional wage. So here marginal productivity may be positive, so there but less than the institutional wage. The amount of positive output by the surplus labor is very low. It is calculated as that is less than the institutional wage. What farmer is actually paying to the laborer. So the amount of output is not equal to that wage rate. So that is the according to Lewis, that is surplus labor. This labor mainly consists of farmers, casual workers, petty traders, domestic retainers, and women. According to Lewis, the surplus labor in the subsistence sector acts as a source from which an unlimited supply of labor can be drawn for the development of the capitalist sector. So Lewis, another assumption is, according to Lewis, the surplus labor in the subsistence sector, in the agriculture or subsistence sector, there are number of surplus labor. That's why his theory is called unlimited supply of labor. Unlimited acts as a source from which an unlimited supply of labor can be drawn for the development of the capitalist sector. So another sector, if you provide another sector to the economy, so there is a raw material or a labor. The labor is available in subsistence sector. This labor will be helpful to the capitalist sector. Labor cheaply available. So that's why another assumption is unlimited supply of labor implies that labor is available to the industry sector at a constant wage rate. This wage rate has to be higher than the institutional wage rate that prevails in the subsistence sector by small and fixed margin. Have a carefully listen. So in the subsistence sector, there are unlimited supply of labor is available. This lab, if you made industry sector or capitalist sector parallel to the subsistence sector, so the laborers are available at constant wage rate. So it means they don't want much more wages. They are available within the existing wage rate, but this wage rate has to be higher than the institutional wage rate. So what Lewis is saying, this wage rate has to be higher than the institutional wage rate. That prevails in subsistence sector. So already subsistence sector, they are getting some amount of wage. So he's suggesting to the capitalist sector, the labor is available in the subsistence sector. They are they're ready to work in capitalist sector, but they need some margin, some higher wage in the capitalist sector when compared with the subsistence sector. Such a difference will attract the surplus farm labor to the industrial sector. So this type of difference will attract the labor from the agriculture sector or subsistence sector to industry sector. Lewis presumes that everybody in the subsistence sector gets an equal share in the total product of the subsistence sector. Lewis presumes that everybody in the subsistence gets an equal share in the total product of the subsistence sector. This is despite the fact that marginal productivity of the surplus labor is less than this average share. He has called this share the institutional base because it cannot be ensured for everybody in the subsistence sector if only the market forces are allowed to operate. Here, the Lewis pointed out that the output made by the laborers are equally sharing, but every laborer's share is not equal. The marginal labor share is very less than the earlier or original lab. So the whole this type of system based on only market forces are allowed to operate. Only non-market factors are responsible for his ways to prevail. So another assumption regarding saving is also very important in the Lewis model. There is yet another assumption underlying Lewis model. It is that is only the capitalist sector, whereby means the industrial sector. So here capitalist sector is nothing but industrial sector, which utilizes its saving productively. So industry sector using their savings productive purpose only, not unproductive purpose. But in the subsistence sector, on the other hand, squanders evades saving, if any, in unproductive pursuits like purchase of jewelry, land, construction of temples, etc. Here, Blizzard, my dear students. So, Lewis pointing out that industry sector or capitalist sector savings reuse for productive purpose only. If suppose in one industry they are they got the 100 crores rupees. If these 100 crores rupees again they are investing in another industry or same industry expands like. But in the subsistence sector, farmers or laborers or retailers and others, they don't want to save for productive purpose. They spent the savings on unproductive purpose like purchase of jewelry, land, purchase of land, purchase of construction of temples, etc. So this is the condition of subsistence sector people mindset. So the prosperity of save of the subsistence sector is also lower than that of the industrial sector. When compared with industrial sector, the prosperity of saving, the thrift is low when compared with the industry or capitalist sector. This is also one of the important assumptions made by the Lewis. So another one is the working of the model. So Lewis explained his model in with the help of diagram. If you look at this x-axis and one of the y-axis, you all know about x-axis is parallel axis, the y-axis vertical axis, the horizontal axis and vertical axis. On horizontal axis, he measured quantity of labor. On vertical axis, wages and marginal productivity. Here, one parallel line is there. It is called constant wage. Constant wage rate. We already explained in the assumptions of Lewis. The wage in the industry sector is constant, but this wage rate is higher than the subsistence sector. If suppose some industry is producing some amount of output, so they appointed labor OL. OL is the labor. Why? Because and on x-axis we are representing quantity of lab. O(n1) is the output. Here total output is O(n1) PL is the total output. But for the capitalist sector, the amount of expenditure is OWPL is the expenditure. What is the profits? Total output is O(n1) PL. So O(n1) PL is the total output. From this O(n1) PL minus OWPL. Why? Because it is the constant wage. From regarding wages, the capitalist has to pay OWPL. That's why O(n1) PL minus OWPL. The remaining part is N1 PW. This triangle shape is the profits for the capitalist sector. So according to Lewis assumption, these capitalists reinvest for productive activities on capitalist sector. So OWN1P is the profit share. Again, they reinvest to the industry expansion or a new industry. That's why he has a chance to increase labor force beyond something. So suppose he uses like this. So wage is not increasing. Why? Because he assumed constant wage rate. There is an unlimited supply of labor in the subsistence sector. That's why suppose from OL to OL1 the labor is increased. Again, the output also increased to ON1 to ON2 by using the capitalist saving. So now suppose here OL1 N2 is a total output. OW something P1 L1 is the expenditure of capitalist. Now W N2 P1 is the W(n2) P1 is the I didn't point the number. You can easily make run. So again, there are a lot of savings. W(n2) P1 is a savings of. Again, they reinvest in another industry or industry expense. So that's why these processes continue until the unlimited supply of labor from subsistence sector is over. So then industry capitalist sector is expanding. At the same time, the unlimited supply of labor, the surplus labor in the subsistence sector is decreasing. Well, for some time, the surplus labor is all are absorbed to the capitalist sector. So that's why this is the one model explained by the capitalist Lewis in the model. So why how role of bank credit is also one of the important aspect in the Lewis model. Why? Because role of bank credit why is needed? Why? Because capitalist is needed investment. For the investment, the banks should provide loans to the capitalist. Is also at the same time slowing of pace of expansion of the capitalist sector. Once the capitalist sector is expanded, the almost subsistence sector is over. In the subsistence sector, surplus labor is over. At the same time, people or workers are demanding for more higher wages. That's why after some time the capitalist sector will come slow down. So regarding the impact of open economy, the exports are increasing of the capitalist sector. At the same time, the machinery is also used in subsistence sector by producing the industry sector or capitalist sector. So the number of opportunities and are come to the agriculture sector. So, but this theory is criticized on many grounds. The main criticism is, suppose he is arguing that Lewis is arguing that the surplus labor is available in subsistence sector. The subsistence sector is nothing but agriculture sector. But in the capitalist sector requires skilled labor. In the subsistence sector, they know only agriculture activities. How the transfer the surplus labor from agriculture to capitalist sector? That is the main criticism. There is a Pai and Rani also criticized this model. After that, many economists criticized this model. Even though this theory or this model is very important model in the explaining about the two sectors interdependence and development of economy. So after that, Rani Pai model is also important. Todaro model is also important. So, but for your purpose, just models of interaction between agriculture and industry is our question. That's why to concentrate on Lewis model. After that, some assumptions like this I will explain if time permits. All the models I will explain. So regarding this, my dear students, so today in this class I explained about the models of interaction between agriculture and industry. So there are so many economists explained, but Lewis model is has their own importance. You are already learned about the Lewis assumptions. Lewis divided economy into the agriculture, subsistence sector and capitalist sector. Only two sectors he taken. He wrote a book. A book name is Economic Development with Unlimited Supply of Labor in the year 1954. These are all the important aspects. Then, so regarding this question, for assignment, write an essay on Lewis model of economic development. Lewis model of economic development, or models of interaction between agriculture and industry in a brief. So this is for our information. The due date is September 4, 2020. So please listen and read material supplied by me in the WhatsApp group and mails. Any doubts, you can make a call to me at any time. Otherwise, you can chat in WhatsApp group. You can give me a mail. So thank you, and tomorrow onwards I will start second unit, module 2. Thank you.